but I can't. Yeah, I'm not gonna have you record that one. That's bad.
I mean, you can record it. You just can't record it for this. At least not your first podcast ever, because
It won't get it put out anyway.
people might not listen to episode 2, even though you're pretty good at it. All right, are you ready to do this thing?
Sure.
Let's
Yeah,
go.
Let's go. LFG.
Welcome to Capes, Cowls, and Conversations, a podcast featuring myself, Tim Neal, and my son, Cameron. We are about as opposite as it comes when it comes to comics and movies and TV shows. I think we agree less than never, but we're going to find out. Go ahead and talk about it a little bit, how you feel about comics and comic books and why we're really doing this.
Oh, well, I mean, we're doing this because we have massively disagreeing or massively different opinions on certain things, and I want to be able to air those out in a way. So this is gonna be that. It's gonna be cathartic. I like it. Also, it's just fun to talk about comic discourse and media literacy in movies and books. So I like that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. We have had so many conversations where I have later felt like, man, we should just be putting a podcast together. People would enjoy watching me tear apart your whole idea about everything to do with comic book movies.
Or we can talk about the time that I changed your mind on Guardians 3.
What? I've never changed my mind.
You walked out of the movie and you were like, "Oh, I'm disappointed because nobody died." I'm like, "Well, yeah, but nobody died because they can now do things with those characters without having to come back for Guardians movies."
I don't remember that going that way, but we'll go with that.
Okay.
The reason that I'm here is obviously different than the reason that you're here. The reason that I'm here is
To be a contrarian.
that too, but no, it is my reason for doing this is one of the greatest themes, in my opinion, of all comic books, of all comic movies, the idea of legacy. And I didn't give this to you ahead of time so that you wouldn't overthink it. But when you think about comics, you're always looking at the future. What is Superman's legacy going to be? What is Batman's legacy going to be? What do they leave behind? The idea of death comes up multiple times. In fact, I just read Kamala Khan's getting killed in Marvel Comics so that they can make changes to her character. But the idea of death and legacy comes up in comics all the time. The legacy of Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, everyone. And when I look at my life, I'm not a superhero by any means. I might be your hero. Or not, based on your face, but I have made podcasts in the past and had a really good time at it. But when I look back at them, I don't see something that will be remembered. I don't see something that people will go, "Wow, this is who he was." And I thought this project with you could be something that one day you can look back on and go, "Hey, I did this with my dad and it was awesome." And someone else can look at it and go, "Hey, they did that together. I could do something with my son." And it could be a legacy. So with that in mind, let's talk about comics.
Cool. Yeah.
So for me, just real quick, I was not a big comic book guy. I did do the movies. We've done basically every Marvel movie on opening day. We've done Spider-Man's rented. We own basically all of the DC animated, but all of that is because of you. And I look at the things that I did when I was younger had nothing to do with really comics. I owned one comic book in my life, the Spider-Man comic book I showed you.
Yeah.
And then one day you introduced me to a TV show.
Oh, crap. Which one?
a TV show with a certain actor
Arrow?
who we've met. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Did I? I thought that was Sean.
No, you introduced me to Arrow.
Oh yeah, that's right. I did. Okay, yeah, because I found it on Netflix. I was like, hey, let's watch Arrow, and then we didn't end up watching it until Sean was like, I've been watching Arrow, and then we decided to do the weekend, like every once a week, have him come over. We like binge watch the show for. Yeah, okay, that was 2014 because Flash hadn't come out yet. It had been announced, and they were like, that was back when they were like. This is going to connect to the movies, and they're going to do more with Grant Gustin, and that's going to cross over with everything. And then they completely scrapped that. That went completely in a different direction. I also remember that was one of the first arguments because they were like, "How's it going to connect to Arrow?" And he's like, "You were like, no, it's connected to the movies. It's not going to make it to Arrow, but like Arrow's in the pilot. Like the Grant Gustin was in the crossover for the one episode, and Stephen Amell's in the trailer for the show." Like, and you were like, no, they're using that to set up the movie. And then they didn't do that at all.
At all.
No.
At all, which is a travesty. It's a travesty because I think that the problem with DC is that they refuse to connect those things.
I know people got really, especially now, they've gotten really used to the multiverse. But there was a time where I wanted them to just be simple. Like, Arrow was simple. One of the things that I get really frustrated with in movies is how they have overcomplicated plots. Like, we'll have like super long, overcomplicated plots and mild character development versus taking something like, for instance, one of my favorites is The Last of Us, where it's such a simple plot. It is literally just Joel taking Ellie across the country, across the state across the country to create a cure for the zombie virus. But instead of making that a complicated plot and, doing way too much with it, it's that simple plot, and then you have the two characters connecting over the trip. That's the story. It's all about the character development versus the journey they're on. I mean, the journey they're on is still a part of it, but,
The journey they're on helps develop the character.
Right. And I feel like
Arrow did the same thing.
Yeah.
The journey he was on develops character, but in your opinion, what was the journey he was on?
Well, it depends on the season.
Starting.
Season 1 was him having. I mean, the first season hasn't failed. He doesn't save the city. I think it was more about starting with his vendetta, obviously, and having to have him learn that he doesn't need to focus on he needs to focus on the people that he's trying to save, because when he focused on the vendetta and he was so caught up in that vendetta, he missed certain things. And by the time that you get to the earthquake machine, right, he fails to save the city, and the bad guy wins technically, even though he loses. So he technically won, but he lost in a bigger way, and that affected his character in season 2, because now he has to learn to be the hero and not the vengeance seeking monster that he was in season 1, where he was just down to kill anyone. Like, he was killing bodyguards. He was okay with killing like some of the big bads in the season. So he had to learn to conquer that. And part of that also had to do with the fact that, he lost his best friend in that incident. Like, that wouldn't have happened.
Tommy.
Yeah, he lost Tommy due to being so focused on his vendetta. And so if he had to learn to overcome that and become more of a hero, and that carries over into season 2, and then.
And to me, the whole show, front to back, was about his legacy.
Oh yeah,
and that's why I chose this one today to talk about legacy, because that was really my introduction. I mean, I would go see Spider-Man movies early on or whatever. But as far as being your dad, I knew at 18 years old, I knew I wanted to be a dad. I had an idea in my head. I was going to be the dad to a son who was going to play sports, and I was going to coach every sport, and we were going to travel and do all of these sporty things. I was going to be sporty coach dad. And you hate sports.
Well,
no, you tried every sport. You
Just
did.
just
You gave
about.
them all an effort, but you hated sports. But the place where we really connected for the first time was Arrow, really. And then you had your incident in junior high, and you were bullied and picked on. And Stephen Amell, I did not. I mean, Arrow was a good show. I enjoyed it, but I did not fully embrace it until you had your bullying incident in junior high, and he came out with his anti-bullying campaign. And we went and met him in Dallas, and that was the coolest moment. For me, it was really the place where I was like, okay, I'll follow this guy. I will follow this guy's career wherever it goes. He can be Arrow, he can be Heels, he can be Suits LA coming out soon.
Yeah.
I'm going to follow this guy forever because the coolest thing he did was recognize that bullying is an issue at a time when my son was being bullied, and he met you. You gave him that pin that we had made, and then he posted it on Facebook like, hey, got this from one of my fans, and it blew me away. So his legacy to me, even though I know he's had some media issues and some things come up that don't always paint him the greatest. His legacy for me is that he was a hero for you, not just on TV, but a hero to you in real life, which was really, really cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that was.
And then DC decided to absolutely ruin Arrow. Oh my God. Talk about that for a second.
Well, so we bring up that point about legacy. The show, I wouldn't say really reached for legacy until season. I want to say, what was it? Season 7? Was it that's the season where they introduced the future? Right.
I think it is. Season 7's where they
yeah.
brought in his older
daughter.
son and his daughter.
Yeah. So that's where they fumbled so hard because they spent 2 seasons building that up to make a spinoff show to continue the legacy, to keep that going, and then they sank it. And
and actually, I enjoyed the spinoff
episode.
Basic pilot episode that they made was really good. I don't understand why it didn't become a show.
Well, like they set up the mystery of where's William.
Right.
But like, why did you set that up if you were never going to pay it off?
Correct. Agreed.
Oof, that was so, and especially because at that point, I'd actually like, at first I was kind of hesitant about older William because I didn't really like, recasting can sometimes not be a fun thing to watch if the actor doesn't really nail the character, but he was a pretty good actor for that role, and I actually enjoyed it for the 2 seasons he was on the show. And then once you have him go missing, it's like, oh, okay, well now I actually want to see that. I'm invested in that, and then nope.
Yeah,
it's gone. The only thing I was like really like not a big fan of with that was the Crisis on Infinite Earths implications, where they rewrote history and the characters didn't know each other anymore, but then like they all got their memories back, so they did know each other. That caused some complications, but that was mainly a Crisis issue and less of a Arrow issue. And I want to rant about Crisis so bad.
I mean, you should. This is part of why we're here, and you should rant on Crisis. I actually enjoyed it as it played, and as I look back on it, I hate it. I hate Crisis now, and a lot of the reason that I hate it is because of the opportunity that I feel like they had at CW post Crisis that they didn't follow up on with the Justice League. Mm-hmm. The problem was they got into this habit, in my opinion, of making shows and scheduling for a crossover once a year. And honestly, what they could have done was just gotten rid of all the shows and moved into more of a Justice League format, like the cartoon.
Yeah.
I think that's what they should have done. And then they could have pulled people in. You didn't have to commit to a full season anymore. You could commit to a few episodes and still pursue your other projects and keep the stories fresh. And I think that was a huge miss on CW's part.
I think the other miss, the only issue I would have foreseen with that is that at that point, right, Stephen Amell was kind of like, he was kind of having his Chris Evans moment where he was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And I was gonna say the issue there would have been I think they would have had a struggle for at least the first 2 seasons trying to get everyone on board for that. But then like once you've given Stephen Amell his break, right? Then he's back. Like Chris Evans, literally like what a year ago was like, I miss it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I miss it. I realized that at the time. I think I was just like, we've done a movie every single year, and I'm tired, and I want to come back. Like I missed that role.
Yeah, and I don't want to jump off on a tangent of Chris Evans, but I am. I mean, I will as long as we come back to Arrow.
Oh yeah, no.
Chris Evans, the exact portrayal of Legacy. Watching him go from the skinny little kid to Captain America to old man Steve Rogers and handing the shield to Anthony Mackie's Falcon to become Captain America, that was the legacy. And the way I think that Captain America and the Winter Soldier, or Falcon and the Winter Soldier, addressed that part of the show, the legacy part of the show, I loved. I did not love the show. Mm-hmm. I didn't. But I did love the way they handled Captain America's legacy and Sam not feeling worthy, and should he take the superhero serum so that he could be equivalent to Steve Rogers. All of that part of the show I thought was fantastic. Mm-hmm. There are other issues I had with the show that I'm sure we'll talk about on another podcast. That's for another podcast.
Yeah.
But that is the absolute best example, I think, of legacy in comic book.
Oh yeah.
So or comic movies, as the case may be.
Yeah, I think it would just be plot lines for me. There's just too many plot lines in the show. And
well, again, I don't want to get off on a tangent of that show today.
We'll come back to it.
Back to Arrow, just to continue down that road. Arrow had some problems.
Yeah, season 4,
season 1.
Ooh, okay.
There was one main problem, and look. I love the show, but there's one problem that started with episode 1. It was a problem from the beginning. It was never fixed. I want you to say what it was.
Are you Felicity?
No.
Okay. I was like,
I think Felicity didn't show up till episode 3, did she?
No, I thought she's in the first episode.
I don't remember.
I think, or maybe it was episode 3. I would have to go back and rewatch.
No, there's a very specific Green Arrow attribute that was a problem for 8 seasons, beginning with episode 1.
The goatee.
The goatee. Where the heck was the goatee?
It doesn't bug me as much now.
Where was the goatee?
I get it. It doesn't bug me as much now, though. I honestly, looking back on it, I think that actually would have, like, at the time, it would have been like fan service all the way. But now that we've grown past the what I'm going to call the age of fan service, because
that sounds like a whole comic book. Age of fan service.
It's the MCU.
Does that last longer than Age of Ultron?
Yes. Oh my God. It is what I'm going to use for mostly the MCU when we talk about it, but it's basically anything after Civil War to Endgame having just loads amount of fan service. And I think if Arrow had done that at the time, it would have been like, oh yeah, finally the goatee. But I would have looked back on that and gone, this show is supposed to be practical. This show is looking at Christian Bale's Batman and going, yeah, let's turn that into a TV show with Green Arrow. And if they had done the goatee and then told me that this was supposed to be practically done, this could be done in real life, right? No, absolutely not. If Oliver Queen had that stupid goatee as both Oliver Queen and Green Arrow, and then people looked at his face and were like, no, they're not. You can't tell me they're the same person.
This has got to be the first and only time we ever sit and talk, and I am the comic book purist. Come on. Are you kidding me right now?
I'm sorry.
Are you kidding me right now?
Look, if it was meant to be comic accurate fully all the way through, and you wanted me to, like, because it wasn't supposed to be. It wasn't even supposed to have fantastical elements into it originally until the Flash came along. And that's where I probably would have accepted the goatee a little bit better is later in the later seasons. But in season 1, if you're telling me this show is supposed to be practical and it's supposed to be kind of Christian Bale Batman inspired, I can't in good faith say that.
That may be the problem. I don't think it should have been Batman inspired, because what we got was Batman in a green suit with arrows.
Yeah.
You got a brooding, Green Arrow instead of a funny comedian type Green Arrow with a goatee.
My favorite.
That was an issue.
It was. But my favorite iteration of Green Arrow is Justice League Unlimited because and I think this is why they didn't do this. But in why he plays more of a Batman role. In Justice League Unlimited, he plays more of a Hawkeye Avengers MCU role where he's the human character and he's kind of grounding even Superman. Like he grounds Superman as a character in that show. And so for this version, if they were going for more of a Batman leading role, he's going to lead the Justice League, having him be the guy who looks at the team and goes, no, I need to ground you. This is me grounding you. I don't think that would work.
Okay, but he doesn't have to be Spider-Man. No. He just doesn't have to be Batman. I mean, come on. Like Stephen Amell brooded like he was trying out for the next Batman role.
He did, but I think that was less him and more the writing. And that is
and sometimes he growled like Christian Bale. Sometimes you have failed the city, and then he talks normal, and you're like, "Why are you doing that?"
Well, at least
everybody knows based on your beard that you're you.
At least in Arrow, they had a speech box in his chest, like that he would tap to do that. In Christian Bale's Batman, and this is crazy because I watched the first one again.
Rachel, I don't know you, Rachel.
I watched Batman Begins again for the first time in a while, and he sounds normal as Batman. He doesn't have the whole growly voice. He has more of a whispery, deeper voice. And then when he's Bruce, he's just Christian Bale with an American accent. But
the farther you get into it,
yeah. But the second The Dark Knight comes out, and I'm just like, I can't take it seriously anymore. And I have so many. I am the contrarian on The Dark Knight. You know this.
It's the greatest movie of all time.
It is a good detective noir movie, but if you try to call it a good Batman movie, it is absolutely not. He's a side character in that movie.
Okay.
He is
okay.
He's a side character.
Okay, so we're getting off topic. Back to the Arrowverse.
Back to Arrow.
Back to the Arrowverse and how they ruined it by making him Batman with a bow and arrow.
No,
and also by introducing the worst version of the Guardians of the Galaxy of all time.
We're gonna disagree so hard on that one.
That's why we're here.
I know. But we'll get into it in a minute. The Arrow, okay. I wouldn't say he was Batman style Green Arrow does not bug me. What bugs me is Batman style Green Arrow post season 4. Season 1 through 3 has a great progression of his character, right? He's actually lightened up as a character by the end. And then season 4 is the dumbest season I have ever seen, probably of almost any show. It's that bad. It's almost like they gave up in season 4 on just planning a story. Because it feels like it is almost...
Remind me which one season 4 was.
Damien Dark.
Oh, my gosh. Tell me you're copying out of writing a show without telling me you're copying out of writing a show.
I won't...
Tell me you dialed it in for a season, or phoned it in for a season. I mean, not dialed it in, because if you dialed it in, it would have been awesome. Tell me you phoned it in for a season without telling me you phoned it in. So Damien Dark. That was a horrible season.
That was a horrible season, but Damien Dark is a good character. The characterizations weren't so bad, but the problem with it is that they clearly didn't have the budget for what it should have been, because they set it up in season 3 like he was even worse than Raish.
Tell me something. You're the comic book guy.
Oh God,
you're the comic book guy.
If you're
is Damien Dark one of the Green Arrow's main antagonists?
Oh well, I don't know.
I'm gonna say no, because of all the nonsensical things that happen in the comics. The guy with no superpowers with a bow and arrow against the guy with magic doesn't make sense.
Well, it can work, but I feel like it's the season where the crossovers should have happened more frequently. Instead of just like a Vixen crossover here and then she leaves, and then a John Constantine crossover here and then he leaves.
Constantine being in it's the only reason there should it should be a fight.
Should have stuck around. It should have been. So you know how like Captain America: Civil War is just Avengers 2.5 kind of.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what Arrow season 4 should have been. We should have been having kind of like Flash just pop in and like help out multiple times, not once or twice, multiple times. We should have had like this should have been the season that has him getting help from other heroes, because this is a threat too big for himself.
Yes, the whole season is a threat too big for himself.
Yes, and so I'm not saying that he can't be the guy that fights him, but it definitely shouldn't be him by himself 90% of the time, telling the team, no, you can't help me. Like doing his secluding himself routine. And
yes, that he does every season because we can't write.
And then killing. And then Black Canary. Like,
but then instead of making spinoffs like Legends of Tomorrow, which was the worst spinoff of all time, that got way too many seasons because it was easy to make.
Well, okay. It was
instead of making that, they could have made a Constantine spinoff that would have probably been way more interesting.
Constantine season 2.
No,
it should have been. That's what it should have been. It should have set up for Constantine season 2.
It should have been its own version of Constantine.
Well, season 1 was canon. Considered canon, at least. They never did anything with it, but it was considered canon.
Know what I'm saying?
Yes, I know.
It should have been its own version.
It should have played off of what season 2 did with Constantine, instead of just throwing him into Legends and then kind of trying to force his arc.
Horrible. Legends was a place where Arrowverse characters go to die.
No, it was
It was a place where Arrowverse characters go to die.
It was because I disagree. It was more like they had, it's where they put their plot lines they couldn't fit into the other shows because they just didn't have the time.
Giant blue stuffed teddy bears trying to attack people. Yep, that's where they put the storylines that were stupid didn't belong in regular shows.
There was some goofy stuff, but I mean the character development in that show for like Sarah Lance, that wouldn't have fit in Arrow at that point.
Legends of Tomorrow was a terrible version of Loki.
No. It was more like Agents of Shields, but
it was like Agents of Loki. They could have renamed it Agents of Loki.
It was
horrible. They were the TVA, but it was like the Guardians of the Galaxy running the TVA.
That actually sounds like a fun idea, though.
But I'm right. It is like Mantis and Drax running the TVA. That's what Legends of Tomorrow was. So corny and so bad.
But Rip.
For one season?
3.
2 seasons?
3.
The third season he was not himself. No, 2 seasons. Rip was the only Rip and Sarah Lance were the only characters. It was a waste otherwise.
You know who the waste was? The real waste? I'm going to say
Brandon Routh.
No, actually.
He was awful.
After watching Suits.
Worst Superman.
After watching Suits, the waste of potential. And I get why he didn't stick around. He should have stuck around, though. He went back to Suits. But they should have kept Rex Tyler around. That was a waste. The leader of the Justice Society.
Rex Tyler? Tell me, who is he in Suits?
Oh my God, no, you don't know? Mike.
Why do I not remember that at all?
Mike Ross played Rex Tyler. You don't remember that?
I don't. Well, I think I quit watching Legends of Tomorrow because it was so god awful.
No, that was season 2. Me and you watched all of season 2. That was the beginning.
I don't remember him at all.
That was the beginning of season 2. That was actually the end of season 1, the beginning of season 2. He appears at the very end of season 1.
Well, listen, He had a much better career on Suits.
Oh, he had
Suits was a
much
way better show. In fact,
but-
I hope he shows up at some point on Stephen Amell's version of Suits. I hope.
I still will wish the entire time that it's set in Seattle. I wish it was. 100%.
Even their commercials are funny.
Uh,
Gabriel Macht and
Oh yeah. Yeah.
their phone commercials are funny.
What's his? It's Gabriel Macht, and I knew his name by heart until recently.
I don't know either.
I usually just end up calling him Mike Ross now. Yeah, it feels reductive, but that's what I end up calling him.
Well, Patrick.
Patrick. Oh yeah. Patrick. God, it's there. It's not Patrick Stewart. It's Patrick.
Patrick Stewart. That's so funny.
Patrick J. Adams.
Patrick J. Adams. Yeah.
Good Lord, that was bad. Gotta hand him. Actually, that's not as bad as the interviewer that confused Bill and Ted.
Oh.
He was in an interview with Keanu and he goes, "So did it take a lot for you to, or did it? What was it? Was it hard for you to come back and find your cadence for Bill?"
He said that to Keanu.
He said that to Keanu.
Oh brother.
Keanu was like, "Dude, you just lost all your cred." Like,
what? Okay. Back to the Arrowverse. What else spun off of there that was good? Nope, there was nothing.
whoa, back up. Flash was good.
I said what else?
Well, okay.
Arrow and Flash were good. Legends was awful. Superman was awful.
Actually, whoa.
Black Lightning was awful.
Superman and Lois?
Black Lightning was
Well,
awful.
back
Supergirl was
Oh,
Supergirl was terrible.
Well, okay, back up. No.
Okay, let's go.
Hold on.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's hear
before you start saying some nonsense on camera.
Because that is the problem with the Arrowverse. The legacy of the Arrowverse just falls apart after 2 shows.
No. Disagree. Hard disagree.
Yeah.
Supergirl season 1 through 3 before Crisis. Season 1 through 3 is pretty good. Hold on. Then season 4 really just kind of the introduction of Lex Luthor in season 3, I think it was season 3, kind of hurt the show because then he was the main villain for 2 more seasons. And then they ended on a cliffhanger. You didn't even finish it. They ended on a cliffhanger where Supergirl reveals her identity to the world.
I watched that.
You watched that?
Yeah.
When did you watch that?
I tried to finish that show. It was just so god awful.
Oh, well then you did that without me because I didn't realize. But yeah, Supergirl's ending has her revealed her identity to the world, and it's like the worst place you could end the show because it's like that's like the most potential you have with the show, right? You reveal the secret to everybody, so now the next season you deal with it.
Well, I think she wanted to be a mom at that point.
She did.
They didn't end her show. She ended her show.
I know. They should have rewrote the ending around her wanting to leave the show. I don't know why they didn't do that. That was stupid. That was bad on the CW's part.
There were really dumb things there. Jimmy Olsen becoming Guardian was dumb.
No, that was cool.
No,
He was like
dumb.
he was like their version of Falcon Captain America. It was dope. I liked it. What?
Yes, that makes total sense.
It was cool. I liked his suit. I liked the armor. I liked the shield, and I loved the comic accurate version that was in Crisis on Earth X. The gold and black version that was in Crisis on Earth X.
That was such a terrible.
That was a good cross. That's the wedding. Whoa, hold on. The wedding crossover? That was the good one.
No.
That was the good one.
No.
Invasion was okay. Invasion's the first one where Supergirl crosses over. That was okay. It was
You liked
Crisis on Earth X. The Nazis come in
the
with
fake the evil versions of
where
all the characters?
evil
Oh,
Oliver
gosh.
married
Oh.
evil Supergirl, and that caused like some funny.
Gross.
That was so good. That was so good.
So terrible.
That was a good one. That was the
Reverse
good one.
Flash.
That was
Nazi.
the best. How is that the one you don't like? Because the one I really hate is Elseworlds. I feel like it. Well, okay, no. Crisis on Infinite Earths is like S tier in hatred. It is so bad.
I agree. I think
But-
after the first 2 or 3 crossovers, it went downhill.
So my list would go the best one being Flash versus Arrow because it's
That was hilarious. That was a great crossover.
great one. Crisis on Earth X goes below it just because of the significance to all the shows. Like it actually affects all the shows. If you don't have Crisis on Earth X, right? Barry and Iris' wedding doesn't happen. And while I don't love Felicity, Oliver and Felicity's wedding doesn't happen.
Could have done without it.
It's still a big moment.
Should have been Black Canary.
It should have been, but at that point, it was two.
Should have been Laurel Lance.
At that point,
talk about ruining a show.
It was 2 seasons later, and I had gotten over it at that point. Supergirl, her whole arc revolves around the fact, and that was like season 2 or 3, right? So her whole arc is revolving around the fact that Mon-El is effectively dead, and she was in love with him. And so she's going to a wedding, watching her best friends get married and having to deal with that. Like that sucks. And then she has to go back because Mon-El, she found out before the crossover that Mon-El was alive. So now she has to deal with that. And then she has the musical episode, which is like the end of that arc. And then he's still ends up leaving, which that's the one disappointing part of that whole thing. The buildup was so cool, and then she doesn't even end up with him. That was really frustrating, actually, to watch in hindsight. But
Okay. Even forgot Batwoman.
you know what?
What a terrible show.
Hold on.
Although I loved Ruby Rose.
Yeah, I was about to say, give me 1 second, because season 1
was good.
actually good.
Season 1
Really
was good.
Even though it was stuck right between Crisis on Infinite Earths, and it had a timeline issue. So the first episode takes place before Elseworlds. But then the second episode takes place like 3 months after Elseworlds, but they don't acknowledge it that way. And then Crisis on Infinite Earths happens 5 episodes later? Like, what's the timeline there? Like, that's like 6 episodes and you've jumped
I don't
so
know.
much. Because at that point, Flash had already gone on for a year before Crisis.
I don't know.
So-
All I know is when Ruby Rose decided not to continue, they should have just canceled the show.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I don't know why they
was
jumped the
awful.
gun on so many things, because I also didn't like the way they did Batwing either. I mean, it was fine, but it wasn't.
I also didn't like the Batman that they chose, the Bruce Wayne that they chose from Game of Thrones.
Wrong show.
No, it's not.
Yeah, that was Titans.
Oh, that's right. That was Titans. It was
Ian-
that was Kevin.
Ian Glenn
No,
or
Batwoman. It was the voice of Batman, wasn't
nope, that was Crisis on Infinite Earths. In Batwoman, they casted a completely different guy for Bruce, but it wasn't even Bruce. It was a guy pretending to be Bruce.
Oh.
Yeah, they
it?
did.
See, that shows I couldn't even stay interested in it. I couldn't. It was
Well,
bad.
I mean, like, I thought they would handle it well because they actually handled Superman well in Supergirl. They really did. His introduction is great. The guy playing him was fantastic. And then you go to Batwoman, and it's like they just didn't know what to do with it, even though they had the blueprint sitting right across, the room in Vancouver. Like, I don't know.
I didn't like Supergirl, so I can't agree with you. That was horrible. Supergirl was horrible.
Superman's introduction in Supergirl was really good. The guy who played Tyler Hoechlin is easily one of the best Supermen. He's up there.
He's an improvement on Brandon Routh, for sure.
He's an improvement on Henry Cavill.
I won't argue that either. Yeah, Henry Cavill was a terrible Superman.
Well,
Henry Cavill was the Stephen Amell of Superman.
but before
Brooding.
well, hold on. Before we go that far, because I do want to say there are some upsides to Cavill. Like, he looks like Superman. Cavill looks like comic book Superman.
If comic book Superman was depressed and anxious.
Hold on.
Yeah,
We'll get
I
into
agree.
it. But I don't think that's Henry Cavill's fault. I think Henry Cavill is a great actor. Similar to, and you disagree with me on this one too, but Andrew Garfield and Henry Cavill. Henry Cavill and Andrew Garfield, they sit up here. They're great actors. The problem is
Henry
they keep
Cavill
getting handed crap scripts, and I do not think Zack Snyder has a good script. I think he has great visual direction.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that later.
Yeah.
Drop it.
We're gonna talk about it later. But yeah, but that's my point. Henry Cavill, great actor to play Superman, bad writing.
Okay.
So and so he's up there, but Tyler Hoechlin is up there. He's definitely an improvement on what they did with Henry Cavill.
Okay. Do we have anything else to cover on the Arrowverse?
Superman and Lois.
So no. Okay. Glad that we covered that. All of this Arrowverse stuff led to Comic-Con. Led to our first Comic-Con, which I still am. I know the no fun person who just goes and walks around and meets the celebrities and looks at all the cool stuff, but I don't dress up.
I still haven't.
But you want to so bad.
I want to. Yes,
you want to so bad.
I want to do a cosplay. I want to.
And how many Comic-Cons have we gone to since doing that first one? Let me just say that's something I never would have done without you coming and saying I want to do Comic-Con. I never would have done it.
I'm trying to think because we did.
And then finding the one with Stephen Amell and going to that was just cherry on the top.
God, we missed this year's. Stephen Amell and Grant Gustin. Sorry.
But no, you're fine. But since then, we've gotten to do some cool things, see some cool things. We've met some really cool people. We have met
Stephen Amell,
Chris Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth was a cool one.
Tom Holland.
Yep. It was cool to meet Tom Holland, and
he was
great.
much shorter than I realized. He was little.
He's 5'8".
He was little.
Yeah.
The picture we have with him. Like, I don't know what I was expecting, but I was not expecting this tiny guy.
You're 5'11"?
Yeah.
He's 5'8". He's at your shoulder.
I know, but he just felt tiny.
And part of the thing is that even though there are height differences in movies, right? So that an actor doesn't seem too small.
I know they put him in lifts and stuff.
They put him in lifts, even though they're supposed to be.
And they shoot from below. I know all the tricks.
And
I'm just saying when we met him in person, he was so little, and so was Brie Larson. I don't know what my expectation of Brie Larson was, but she was so tiny too.
I think for me, it's when we're watching the movie, they try to make her look tall and big. And so when you're right next to her, she's not as big as you.
I don't think I would recognize her in person if I saw her in person, like just walking down the street, because she was so not what I expected after the movie.
Oh, yeah. But no, it wasn't a bad thing. It was just like,
no, it's fine.
Yeah.
Who else? Tessa Thompson.
Yes.
She was the best.
She was the best of the three. Chris Hemsworth was more for me though, because he's just a goofy dude.
The thing about Chris Hemsworth that I remember is for months before we went, Eliana would tell me how Chris Hemsworth was so much bigger and stronger than me. And today, I haven't worked out in a year or so. And
yeah, but you
I'm
were
a little bit fat. But at the time, I was working out a ton, and so I just told her, I said, "You're going to be so surprised when we see Chris Hemsworth, because your dad is going to be bigger than Chris Hemsworth, and he's taller than me. I think he's like 6'2".
Yeah, he's 6'2".
So he was taller, but he was shooting this movie at the time that was it's a psychological thriller movie where he plays a psychiatrist, and so he hadn't built on all the Thor muscle. He was skinny, and so we met him, and I was much bigger than him, much bigger built than him, and that was hilarious to me because I knew she was not going to be expecting that.
Yeah, it was a funny moment.
That was fun. We have met Christina V.
Did I?
And
was I in that photo?
Bryce Pappenbrook. Yeah, you're in the
photo. You know what? I am in that photo, but I don't have that big of a connection with those two, other than Hell of a Boss, and you haven't watched it.
Well, you do. You don't realize it. Bryce Pappenbrook was on Attack on Titan.
I didn't finish it.
And 7 Deadly Sins.
Still working through it.
And Demon Slayer.
Haven't seen it.
Wow. Okay. But you are a big watcher of Ladybug and Cat Noir, Miraculous.
No.
And so
no.
there is
Get that off.
there
No,
there
cut
is Miraculous where they both are.
I have only seen like a handful of episodes, and only because my sister watches it.
Whatever, dude.
Dude, no.
You can talk. We could have a whole
Seriously.
episode on Miraculous. You can't even lie.
We can have an episode on what I've seen of Miraculous, where I've noticed that it has a lot of CW drama problems where they revert back to status quo too frequently and they don't actually progress their characters.
Well, anyway, they do have that. Anyway,
yeah.
we got to meet them at Comic-Con, which was really fun. And for Eliana, a big deal because that was her favorite cartoon.
Still kind of.
You got to meet Ben 10, the creators, and the voice.
Yes, I need to get that back in here. Actually.
Who was that? The voice. Is that Tara?
I'm not gonna help you with this one.
I can't remember.
How do you not remember?
What was her name? Tara?
Tara Strong.
Tara Strong. Tara Strong. That was a big deal. That was a big deal. And then we have that.
Hold on.
I still have that video on Facebook of the creators.
It was a big deal, but I will never not be disappointed and sad and
that trip. Yeah.
Yeah, because
we were supposed to meet Kevin Conroy.
We were supposed to meet both Kevin Conroy and Tara Strong at the same time.
Yeah.
And that did not happen.
Because he was Batman and she was Harley Quinn.
Well, no.
And that was
actually,
right before he
Batgirl.
died. Oh, she was Batgirl. I thought she was Harley Quinn.
So she replaced Arlene Sorkin in 2008 or 2010. Because Arlene Sorkin was the original Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
And she retired.
But this was after 2010 when we met them.
Yes, it was.
Or when we were going.
So she has played Harley Quinn, but she is more known for Raven from Teen Titans and Ben 10 for the early Ben 10. And she is also known for Batgirl.
Well, she's known as the woman of 1,000 voices.
She is so many voices. Timmy Turner.
But that Comic-Con was right before Kevin Conroy died.
It was right. It was October, and he had to call off because of personal reasons. They didn't explain what it was, and then we found out a month later he had cancer.
No, I think we found out a month later he died.
He died. Yes, we found out he died from cancer. We found out the same time. He didn't find out that it was cancer.
We found out that he was dead, and that it was because of cancer.
Yeah, and
I knew how disappointed you were that day, and that was terrible.
And I wasn't even mad. Like I was like, I get it. Like I'm one of those. It's like they're actors are people too. So if they need to take a break, it was like, man, that would have been cool. And then to find out a month later, the whole reason he didn't show up is because he had a struggle with cancer.
Well, there was him, and then we also missed out on the opportunity to meet Stan Lee. Passed away before we got to see him at a Comic-Con.
It was crazy because it's also reminiscent of Chadwick Boseman. Like I would have loved to meet Chadwick Boseman before he died.
Yeah.
And we didn't know. Like nobody knew that Kevin Conroy had cancer. It's the same thing. Nobody knew that Chadwick could get. They were both keeping that pretty close to their chest. And then when you find out, it's like, damn.
Yeah, for sure.
Like I just would have loved to meet like both of them before they passed. That was then I was so close. That's the one thing that's gonna pay me more about Batman than Black Panther is that I was so close to meeting. I was like days away, and he had that incident. And
well, I'm sure we're gonna do more.
We're
gonna do more Comic-Cons.
So
in fact, Northwest Arkansas Comic-Con is in January, and the voices of Light and L and the name that I can't pronounce from Death Note are there. The actual one that kills the people when he writes the names in the book.
That's L. That's Light. Light.
No, the actual demon.
He doesn't kill anyone. He just handed the note to Light. Oh,
I thought he actually goes through with the killing for him.
No, he so the demon.
He just owns the book.
I'm trying to think his name. But yeah, so basically.
So anyway, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The thing is, his voice is there. The voice of Light, the voice of L, and the voice of the demon.
Why am I
starts with a K, I think.
I'm not for remembering his name, but that's just because I haven't seen it in so long.
But anyway, they're going to be there. There's going to be a few other people there. It's a really small con. I hope that one day they can build this thing up.
We missed last year's. We really should have gone to last year's, but we were busy with something at the time. But last year's, or this year's technically, was the original cast of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from 1980. And I don't know how nostalgic you are for that, but you grew me up on that Turtles first.
Well, I let you watch it. Yeah. I mean, I bought you the videos.
I watched that one before I watched the 2003 Turtles. So I grew up on the 80s Turtles. And so I was like, all four of them are getting together in Arkansas. That's cool. And we didn't do it. But it was also super last minute when I found out, and you were having something else going on at the time that is not podcast related. And so we didn't get to do it. But
Ryuk,
yes.
Yeah. There was also some Cobra Kai kids there last time too.
Yeah.
That we missed. And I do regret that.
But we'll be paying closer attention. It's just the last couple of years have been a little harder to keep up with them because of expenses and other stuff. So, well, maybe going forward.
Well, growing up, I mean, you've moved out.
Yeah.
You know, part of my legacy is you are now out of the house and making your own way. And it just makes things a little more difficult and a little more fun. But a little more challenging to get to do all the same things all the time. But we will make the time to do it. And then to do this podcast, and maybe we can use this podcast as a way to go to Comic-Con and possibly interview some people or take some cool pictures.
Oh, yeah.
The goal, obviously this episode is no video, but the goal is to eventually get some video podcasts going, and it'd be cool to interview some people on camera and maybe have somebody in the studio and have them talk to us or go to them and shoot our podcast with them.
Have someone in here, or maybe not in here, but in a studio, at some point, in an actual studio. If we ever get an actual studio, that'd be cool.
This is an actual studio.
It's a room in here.
Built into an actual studio.
Oh no, it's still cool. Don't get me wrong. I like it. It looks nice. But I mean, when at some point, I would love to meet Sam Witwer. I don't know if you know who that is, but
Sam Witwicky. No.
Oh,
no Transformers here.
There will be. There will be.
Who's Sam Witwer?
Sam Witwer. He is a big Star Wars guy.
Okay.
That's actually putting it very mildly. You've actually seen him if you've watched Dexter. No, I don't know if you watched Dexter.
Not yet.
Dang. Let's see. Sam Witwer. He's Darth Maul in Star Wars Clone Wars. Star Wars The Clone Wars, I should specify.
Something I don't watch.
You did watch with me.
I did not pay attention to. And I'm pretty sure I fell asleep in it.
You should have paid attention to it because it was a good show.
It's Star Wars. Star Wars is stupid.
7, 8, and 9 are stupid.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 are stupid.
No.
And so are the cartoons.
Whoa. Wait, no, the cartoons are great. Well, okay, actually, I shouldn't say that because Rebels is not great.
Go on. Tell us how great they are.
Clone Wars.
You were saying, how good is it?
Clone Wars. Okay, I'll give you this. There are some episodes you can skip in Clone Wars because they're 90% filler. But, 75% is filler. Holy crap. Don't say 90. 75. That's more accurate. But there's some episodes of Clone Wars you can skip because they're filler. But Rebels is mostly filler. A lot of filler. They're still good, though. Okay,
No.
You have to sit down and watch them.
No.
At some point.
But we are going to cover a lot of stuff here. We're going to cover some Comic-Cons. We're going to cover games. I know Cameron's wanting to talk really hard about video games and video game adaptations. We're going to talk movies. We might even go out to premieres. We've never missed a Marvel premiere since Thor.
Have
we missed a Marvel premiere since
the only
Thor?
one I have ever missed? The only one I have.
We didn't go to Iron Man. I know for a fact we didn't go to Iron Man. We didn't know it was going to be that big of a deal.
We
went to it in the theater. We didn't go to the premiere.
We didn't go to premiere. The only one we have ever actually missed, and I mean like in recent years, is I did not go to the Marvels.
Yeah, I did though.
You did though. But
and it was a great movie.
That was crazy.
Super underrated. Great movie. We're gonna cover it. We're gonna cover the MCU. We're gonna cover the new DC stuff. I'd like to call it movies, but mostly it's just crap they throw on a screen.
Hey, whoa. No.
We're gonna cover video games. We're gonna cover cartoons. We're going to cover, all kinds of things. You're going to hear us argue. We've argued a little bit today. It's funny. We mostly agree on the Arrowverse, mostly. But we're going to do that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Try to release this weekly and just get together once a week. Like I said, for me, it's legacy. I get a chance to spend some time with my son and leave something lasting and meaningful, and just have a really good time. And for him, hopefully it's some of the same. And also an opportunity to try to be right publicly, which never happens. So,
wow. Also, we should probably plug Superman Legacy, right? Because we're gonna go see that.
It's
right?
not Superman Legacy anymore, by the way.
Superman,
He dropped Legacy off of it.
I know. It's so stupid because that was such a good title.
And
it would have fit this podcast.
It doesn't fit this podcast at all.
Yes, it does.
But if you like what you've heard, like, share, subscribe. You can find us on Spotify, Apple iTunes, YouTube, iHeartRadio, just about anywhere that you listen to podcasts.
In about 40 years in space.
What? I have no idea what you just said. Like, share, subscribe. A lot more coming, and we are out.